Hello and welcome to the Zwift Race Place. I'm Cade Fravel, and today we're bringing you live coverage and commentary of the BRT Thunder and Lightning series. This week we're over on the Watopia Figure 8 course, and we'll be talking about the course and all sorts of other stuff in our pre-show today. And then we'll get into the race starting at 18 o'clock GMT time. That is 1 o'clock for anybody in Eastern time here in the US. As you can see, I'm currently in the D pens right now, and we are just awaiting their start. We've got 4 riders in the pens at the moment, and we are about 13 and a half minutes out from the start here in the D pens, so looking forward to that start. I think we had 32 signups here in the Ds, so we can just take a look around at some of the riders signed up here. I'm only seeing 3 riders. Zwift is showing 4 riders signed up. But we'll go into that and some other stuff in just a minute. First up, I want to take a look at the course. This is our Velo viewer for today. We've got the Watopia Figure 8 course, and it's a little hard to tell that this is a Figure 8 from this image. And just ignore those start-finish things. Those are outdated. Can remove those. But we start in downtown Watopia, as you can see from the pens that we were just in, and then it's 2 passes over the reverse Zwift KOM. That's the biggest feature out there today. Otherwise, it's a lot of flat. It's about 30 kilometers, 29.8 kilometers, with an average of a 0% gradient. Because it is a loop, we start and finish in the same place. I apologize for those background noises. Alright, we can take a look at the elevation profile here. It's a little bit easier to see on the elevation profile than on the Velo viewer. You can see we start in downtown Watopia here. That's where we are in the pens currently. Then we climb up just a little bit, and it's a pass over the Zwift KOM reverse. You descend down the reverse is the less steep side, averages around 3% gradient towards the top, a little steeper at the bottom. Then you descend down the steeper side, that is the Zwift KOM forward. You go through the rollers over to the Watopia Sprint reverse, and then it's a pass over the Zwift KOM forward. This is the steeper side, as I mentioned, so riders will have a harder time there. And then one more pass through the Watopia Sprint, and back down into the finish line at our banner in Watopia, right around where we're sitting in the pens right now. So that's your loop for today. You can see the average gradients on the Zwift KOM reverse are around 1.8%, and the average gradient on the Zwift KOM forward is 5%. So that gives you a good idea of how steep those climbs are going to be for anybody who hasn't raced this route before. And I also wanted to note there has been a change in some of the start times from last week. And for anybody who's new to this race series, it is a chase race format, which means our Ds are set off first, and then the other categories end up chasing them. So Ds go first, then Cs, then Bs, then As, and a category's time is counted by the 6th rider, not time, but the category is counted by the 6th rider over the line. So categories are competing to get their 6th rider over the line first. Whichever category gets their 6th rider over the line first ends up winning for the day. And then within our category competitions, we also have team competitions, which is a whole separate breakdown, and I have some results for you there. It turns out our visuals were actually outdated. I didn't get those updated in time, but I'll read them off from the latest results that I have, which I got recently. So we'll take a look at that in just a minute. But as I was saying, start times have been updated from last week. So this week it's going to be our Ds go off first at 18 o'clock GMT, and then our Cs follow. They're going to be a whole 7 minutes behind. That's been extended from the previous iterations of this race. Last week was also 7 minutes, but our first 2 races in this series were only about 3 minutes, I believe. Then after our Cs, the Bs will be going off 3 minutes later. This has also been changed because originally the Bs, last week the Bs went off 2 minutes after the Cs. This week we've pushed it back to 3 minutes because our Bs caught the Cs so early on, I can presume, is why that change was made. And then the As are kept where they were at 2 minutes after the Bs, although their time from the Cs and Ds has been pushed back a minute because of that minute that was added to the Bs time. So it sounds confusing, but your basic breakdown is Ds first, Cs 7 minutes later, Bs 3 minutes after that, A's 2 minutes after the B's. And those will be our start times today. Speaking of which, we are just about 9 minutes out from the start to the D's now, which will be our first category out on course. All right, so that was kind of the category aspect of it. And if you're wondering what ended up happening last week, our B's managed to catch both the C's and the D's who were set off ahead of them. They managed to win last week. I believe our C's hung on for second place, D's in third, A's in fourth. It was not a great week for the D's or the A's last week. I don't think our A's have gotten out of fourth position all race series. So this week is their final week to make up some places, because I also want to mention this is the final week of the BRT Thunder and Lightning Season 1. So everybody out there watching, bring your teammates to Season 2 starting this March. We won't have live coverage from the Zwift race place, but the series will be running back and better than ever, so bring all your teammates. Check out the BRT Thunder and Lightning Season 2. It's going to be super fun. I may even race a couple of the races myself over in the C category. And also, I just noticed, I want to apologize for our layout on the stream. It looks like the 8 part of the Watopia figure 8 has been cut off right there, so that does say 8 is the final word up there on your banner title. Alright, so now over to results. As I said before, my results are outdated, so the ones I had on my stream. So I'm going to read you off what I have from some PNG images I got earlier. In Cat A, we have the BRT leading, as they are in every category, in fact, with 220 points, all the way back to 90 points for the WL Tri squad. That's a big gap there between BRT and WL Tri in the A category. 10 points behind WL Tri is Vixen and Fox team. 30 points behind them, Bikes and Beers. And then only 1 point behind Bikes and Beers, all tied on 49 points, are Cycleworks and SWOZR. And then only 1 point behind them, TMA. RWB and Relentless and Triathlete Zwift following with only 47 points. All tied on 47 points. Again, RWB, Relentless, and Triathlete Zwift all on 47. Evolution in 11th place, along with Dolce Vita also in 11th. Those two tied on 45. Zwift Scotland and Windsor Door Race are tied on 44 points for 13. And then Team Cryogen taking up the 15th spot. From there, it's Hino RT, Sucks for Watts, DZR, TTC, Cyclonauts, RWC Ahoy, and Tuga ZRT. But your top 15 there, really close, kind of around that 5th to 15th place range. All right, over in Cat B, some more teams here, but I'll give you the breakdown on the top 10 or so. BRT leading once again. They have about a 300-point lead in this race. That's not going to be coming down anytime soon. BRT have got this one locked up. Then SDW trailing with 142 to BRT's 457. SDW also with good positioning in second place there. They're a good 60 points ahead of TBE on 85 points. And then Cycling Ireland in fourth with 74. FCCC on 65 in fifth. And then it gets closer. After DBR in sixth on 60, we've got riders tied for seventh. That's Team CLS and BZR e-cycling team, both tied for seventh on 48. And then in ninth, Foudre with 47. 10th, SDW with 46. And I'm thinking that might be a glitch, or I guess there are just two SDW teams in this race, maybe, because we've got them up there in second place with 142, and then also back in 10th, rounding out the top 10 with 46. So I'm not exactly sure how that worked out. And then the rest of your top 20 go ZTP, LCC, Gen X, Chalk, FFZ, Rapatria, Milano, Triathlon, Midweek, MWCC, Satonia, Tri-Surrey, SCR, and then Team Italy and NDCA tied for 20th. All right, finally over in the Cat C here, we've got BRT leading once again with a 400-point lead this time, 606 compared to Team Italy's 294 in second place. FCCC trailing Team Italy by about 170 points, it looks like, with only 126. Then only 6 points to TFC on 120 in fourth place. From there, it's BWCC on 98 in fifth, Cyclonauts on 94 in sixth, IRL on 92 in 7th. We've got a tie for 8th place with STW and Team CLS, both on 72. BAEK is sitting in 10th, rounding out your top 10 on 68. From there, it's Bjor VR was 60 for 11th, England CC in 12th, Team Cryogen in 13th, CCC in 14th, DBR 15, and Tugazi 16. All right, and finally, in the Cat D, we've got BRT leading with over 400 point lead, over a 450 point lead, in fact, sitting on 562 compared to TNACC on 100 points in second. TNACC only leading third by 6 points, that's FCCC in third place on 94. Then it's Bike Clinic in fourth place on 76. Team Type 1 leading Peta Z by only 2 points, 58 to 56. Then we've got CLS in 7th with 44 and ATP rounding out this leaderboard with 42 points in 8th. And that's all your teams from the Cat D. All right, there we go. Those are our results for today. And one thing that I do like to do before the start of the race is look at some of the signups or the size of some of these signups out there on course today, because that can determine how fast a category is moving. So we're going to head over to our events in Zwift Power and check out who we have signed up for today's race. All right, so we'll start off with the Ds as they're released first. They've currently got 58 signups. And coincidentally, this goes in order of the rank or the tier of category. So D's sitting with 58 signups, C's follow with 48, B's with 40 signups, and A's trailing quite a ways with 12 signups. So our B's don't quite have the numbers that they had last week, although I can tell you that these numbers have gone up quite a bit just from when I logged on here at 12:45. So signups still going up. We don't know what's going to happen for sure, but I'd say it's pretty safe to say that D will have the most riders, B and C will be pretty close, kind of in the mid-ground, and A are not going to have a whole lot of numbers on their side in today's race. You can see from the clock over in Zwift, we are approaching the 1 minute and 45 second mark to the start of this race. We've got about 34 riders actually in the D pens right now, awaiting their start. 58 signed up, as I said, so we'll see if those final 24 show up before the start of the race. Now, under a minute and a half to go for our Ds. Another funny thing that happened last week was that when our Cs started, they all rode through the pavement in downtown Watopia for some reason. And I'm not sure, I haven't really talked with the event organizers about that, but I'm guessing it was just a Zwift bug because I don't have a good explanation for why that happened. Ollie Fussell says, hi, Cade, in the chat. So, hi right back to you, Ollie Fussell. Ollie and the rest of the SDW Youth Squad, they've all done a video with us here at TZRP. You should check that one out. It's about Zwift from a junior's point of view, because Ollie and the rest of the SDW Youth Squad, great youth team there, Nathan Tully, Henry Bottoms, Leo Hughes, and Ollie Fussell. They're a real force to be reckoned with. All right, we're approaching the 30 seconds to go mark now. Julian Fussell in the chat says, come on, SDW Wasps, Cat B Smash Fest today. And I'd have to agree. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Cat B, but if they can repeat what they did last week, it's going to be a good day for the Cat Bs. Their gap has been pushed out by a minute, though, so we'll see how that affects them out on course today. We're going to switch over to our full-screened Zwift view. And heading over to the game now. As soon as this starts, we'll be able to go in with these riders. Here we go. Off the front with D66, he's leading it out for the Ds. I didn't notice what that exact number was when we hit the start banner there. I'm not sure exactly how many riders started here, but I'd say it was around 40 to 50 riders, somewhere in that 40 range. And it looks like D66 and S Distance are both off the front of this race right now. They've got about a second. Well, that gap ping-ponging there a little, but I'd say about a second to the riders following, including S. Golding and J. Mohan. Riders jostling for position back here in the main pack. Let's see if we can get in with our 6th rider on the road, because that's going to be the rider that counts. And it looks like it's our 6th rider sitting right around here. These riders off the front will account for the top 6 out there today. So we'll have to see if the D's can kind of form a bit of a train here, try and work together, because right now their category is all split apart, and that is no way to win as a category. It's what ended up killing them in last week's race. Did not work out well for them. Too many flyers off the front, and I have to say it's not looking good for them right now. I'm going to pull up our Zwift Power Live data. That was down last week, so let's hope that it's up and working this week. Also, before we get too far into this, I do want to mention, over in the live chat, let us know which category you think will win. Will it be the D's? They've got the best time advantage, but assuming that they're going to be the slowest out on course, or our A's don't quite have the numbers today, but but the fastest, assuming that they're the fastest out there on course, are they going to be able to close down those gaps? Let us know, A, B, C, or D, over in the live chat. And I'll give you my opinion. I think that today's either going to go to the B's or the C's. They've got the best numbers, and they've got the right kind of riders for this course. Mostly heavier riders, which do well on the flats like this. Plus, they know how to ride as a pack. Unlike these D's, we've got a lot of flyers. Our 6th rider is up across from the main peloton out on the road. Not really a smart position for the 6th rider out on course. And it's just going to make it easier for our chasing categories to catch our D's out here today. Now, the other thing I want to note is that when that elapsed time clock up on the top of our screen in our D category hits 7 minutes, it means that our C's have just started, so we can jump back with them and check out what they're doing out on course. And I think we're going to be trying to jump in with Patrick Harvey today. I'm going to pull up some Zwift Power, see if our Zwift Power data is up now. Looks like we've only got 2 riders officially signed up on Zwift Power in terms of live data right now. But as I said, that was down last week, so Zwift Power live data, not the most reliable source right now. I'll try and get you all the gaps that I can once we've got some other categories out on course. So our C's are going to be set off next, as I mentioned. So let's take a look at who's registered today. Patrick Harvey, as I said, is up there in Zwift Power. Patch Harvey is our number 1 ranked C rider registered today. Numbers are down a little bit. I suspect that that's due to the 3R series, that latest endurance series coming out, and also Watopia, which is happening this weekend. But it'll still be an exciting race because I think all categories have been downsized a little, so fair playing field still. And Patrick Harvey going to be the rider to watch for over in the C's. We don't have as many Zwift Power registered riders in the C category or the D category, but hopefully we've got some larger numbers than I can see on Zwift Power here. All right, so we'll be ready to jump in with Patrick Harvey in just about 3.5 minutes now. We're about halfway through this start section where only the D's are out on course, and it seems like they're forming a little bit more of a main group up front here, about 8 riders strong, so our 6th rider is located in this front group. They're jostling around for position a little bit, but it seems like they've kind of found their rhythm around 2.7 watts per kilograms. So I'd suspect that this 25 miles per hour on the flats is what we're going to see consistently from our lead D-Pack here. And I think that would put our C's and B's, I think they can catch a group moving at this speed and this size. Maybe we've got 9 riders here. It's a little hard to tell, 8 or 9 out here on the road. But either way, our 6th rider is located in this group. And it's good to see that they found their rhythm. No longer any riders off the front, but I still don't think that it's going to be enough in terms of the Category V category competition out there today. And just looking on the mini-map, we can zoom out here a little over here on the mini-map because that'll show us maybe where the other D categories out on the road are. But you can see it's a fairly large gap. Our front D's just going under the water again, whereas our second pack of D's on the road are just barely halfway through the island, which means that our front D's, I don't think that they're going to be brought back by the leading D's. They've got about 9 seconds now, and that gap is holding around there. We'll see if it comes out any farther, or maybe if our second pack of D's can bring them back, our D's might have a better shot today because larger packs mean higher speeds usually out here on Zwift. All right, now 5 minutes in, that means we're just about 2 minutes from the start of the C race. and we're getting Patch Harvey pulled up on the Zwift companion app, so we're ready to jump in with him as soon as our C's are set off. It would not surprise me if he was on the front of that race. All right. Patch Harvey does ride for the BRT. In terms of teams over here in the D category, I don't see a lot of tagged riders, which could just be a sign that a lot of these flyers here are not riding for a team in terms of the team competition in today's race. That could mean that we're still going to see a sprint from the second group of Ds out on the road, as there are still team points available over in that second group. Sorry, they're just having a couple technical issues, but I think that we are good here. All right, let's see what Julian Fussell has to say over in the live chat, because he's been giving me some updates here. He said, Cade, Rob Burden, Presmic, Jers both raced the Quatch Quest this morning. Be good to see how they do today. Okay, we'll check them out. And this is too big a gap, I think, this week. In terms of the gap to the Ds, our Bs were able to close it last week. So I don't know if it is too big of a gap. I think we'll just have to see. That's just my opinion. It all comes down to the legs. I think it's a shorter race course this week, which could have an impact on whether or not our riders can close that gap. All right, so having a hard time finding Patch Harvey in the Zwift companion app. I'm not sure what that's due to, but I think that we're going to jump in with James Elgar if we can in just a minute, because he's another BRT rider that's signed up for our C's, which just took off 5 seconds ago. All right, it does not look like Elgar is riding, so I'm not sure what kind of issues we're having here in terms of rider being able to jump in with riders here, but I'll get you in with our C's as soon as possible. All right, we're going to try and jump in with David Swan now. Might have to go and do this the manual way. Just head back through our pack of D's here, and our C's should be farther back on the road. See, there they are. See, Jay Matthews, and here we are in our group of C's. We'll move towards the front of this group and see what's happening up here. Here we go. We're now in with Jay Sadeko. He's leading out this group, but it's pretty much together still. We've got a little gap in the main pack of C riders here, as you can see up on the mini map in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. I'll be curious to see if they can close that gap down from that second group back there, because if they can, I think our C's might have a better shot. Although there's enough riders in this front pack here, I think at least 15, where our C's are going to be pulling hard enough that they can catch our D's if they really try today. I see PTK from the BRT Badgers, and I'm wondering if this is Patch Harvey now, because I was unable to find him on the Zwift companion app, and I'm wondering if that's because he changed his name, which I think is a likely scenario. Let's see if we can get some Zwift Power live data in terms of the gaps between these categories. And it looks like Zwift Power has not updated enough for us to see the gaps now. Julian Fussell with a question in the chat. Cade, what bike choice would you have gone with for this course? All right, so that's a tough one, but I think it's an aero course, right? We've got a flat course out there today, which means that I would have gone with an aero setup. There are a couple climbs, but as we saw, the original reverse climb out there on course, average gradient only 1.8%, and the forward climb is quite short with an average gradient of only around 5%, which is still pretty steep, but technically draftable, and it's so short that I don't think that it'll matter in the grand scheme of things. So in terms of bike choice, if you have Tron, I'd go with Tron, or a good all-rounder setup. The specialized Venge would work well for this one, the S-Works Venge, with Zip 808 wheels or disc wheels if you have them, I'd say. And if you're not quite up to the Venge standards, maybe go with the Canyon Aero Road 2021. Those are both good all-rounder setups for non-Tron owners. But if you have the Tron, I'd say a Tron is a solid choice for this course and most courses out there on Zwift. All right, let's see if our Zwift Power live data has updated. And yes, it looks like it has. We've only got one C riders showing out on course, but right now it looks like the gap is around 6 minutes and 32 seconds. So our C's already closing on our D's out on course. And this could be the answer to Julian Fussel's question over in chat. That gap might not be too big because our C's, we see them pushing 26 miles per hour here. Now 20 up to 27 for a minute there on the flats. That was faster than our D's were going through on this section of the course by quite a bit here. So they could easily close that gap down within the domains of this course today, I think. It'll just depend on who's willing to do the work at the front and who's trying to save themselves for that final sprint in the team. It all depends out there today, and I think it's possible to close the gap. I even think it's probably probable that our C's will catch our D's or our B's will catch our D's, but you never know. Our D's might be fighting pretty hard out there today. It all comes down to how everybody's feeling. There we go. I see Jamie Watson from the DBT. Jamie Watson, I thought he was a BRT rider. Maybe that's not Jamie Watson out on course, but he's another rider that may be doing some work out there at the front today. Patrick Harvey, also, he can go ahead, come to the front and do some work as well because of the fact that the BRT riders are leading by so much across all the competitions. They don't have to worry so much about the team competition. They can pull for their category up on the front. Here we go. Our C's just coming out of the underground tunnels here, and our B's are underway, so we'll check in with them in just a minute. Excuse me. All right, so looking over at B signups today, and actually, I want to touch quick on the gap between the C's to the D's. That is now at 6 minutes and 26 seconds from the C's to the D's. So they're already closing, and they're just coming out of the first section on course now. Our D's are also approaching the reverse KOM at the moment. So that'll be interesting to see how they fare there. And that increase in gradient might be why our C's are closing a little faster than expected. All right, we're going to be looking at Jers from the SDW squad. I'm not going to try and pronounce his first name because it's spelled P-R-Z-E-M-E-K. E-K. So if anybody has any pronunciation advice for that name, just let me know over in the live chat. But he's riding for the SDW squad here. And I know that Julian Fussell mentioned that he already did the Quatch Quest earlier today. So his legs should be pretty tired. But let's see how he's doing over in the D's out on course. All right, here we are in with our B's. And Jers is leading in this pack from the SDW squad. A couple other riders up here with him as well. They've got a pretty large group here, and I was talking about speeds before. We saw 25 from the B's through this section. We saw 25 from the D's through this section, 26, 27 for the C's, and now 28, 29 for the B's. Our B's are definitely pushing much faster than our other two categories, and I think that this might be fast enough. I think that they might be able to close down that gap to our C's even a little faster than they were last week. We'll wait to see if our Zwift Power Live gaps have updated. But in the meantime, I can tell you that the gap to the back of the C's, they'll catch their first C rider. The gap to that C rider is right around 42 seconds right now. So once they start catching certain riders in the field, you just get the motivation that that front group is just up ahead of you. So once they start to catch those back riders, it'll be easier, I think, for our B's to continue making progress on the front C's. And it looks like we've got all our gaps now, our A's as well. And the gap from the C's to the B's right now is sitting at exactly 3 minutes. Now down to 2 minutes and 57 seconds. So they've closed just a little bit so far, but mostly holding steady with their start gap. Meanwhile, our A's, they are more than 2 minutes behind the B riders, which is not good. That means that they're kind of going in the backwards direction here, although they have made up about 20 seconds to our D riders out on course. So they could be in for a third place spot if they're lucky here this week, which I don't think that they've had yet. I think it's been a lot of fourth places for our A riders. There's only one A rider registered on Zwift Power Racing right now, so we'll just have to see if that gap comes down at all. And we'll be getting another update in 5 seconds, so we can check in and see what that gap is. Also, it looks like our Ds are approaching the top of the reverse KOM, so we might try and jump in with them real quick. All right, here we go. Updated gaps. The C Riders are now at 6 minutes and 6 seconds to our Ds. That gap is coming down pretty fast, although I don't know if it's fast enough. I think that gap might start to come down faster once they hit the reverse KOM, just because Ds are much slower climbers than C Riders, generally speaking. The gap from the Bs to the Cs is still hovering around 3 minutes, we can see here, now down to 2:55, and I think that's going to be the real race to watch, is B to C gap. That's going to be where the real competition happens today. We're going to try and jump in, though, with our D racers out in front on course. See who's leading in the D race right now over on the Zwift Power Live data. And it looks like we're going to try and jump in with Michael Toglia. Meanwhile, our B's still pulling a pretty fast pace, around 27 miles per hour here. And they're coming up on that first dropped C Rider out on course. All right, let's see. Here we go. We are in with Michael Toglia out on course, and he is one of our first registered Zwift Power riders out here, but it doesn't look like he's actually in the front group. Our front group, I believe, has just passed under that KOM banner, and that marks roughly the halfway point for our Ds out on course. Not a perfect halfway point. Once they come through that first sprint, I think that's pretty safe to say is the official halfway point. But they've gotten through that first KOM, which is going to be one of the hardest parts out on course today. And it looks like the group has broken up. Osal's sitting, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 6th rider is in this front group here. That was what we really needed to know. And our 6th rider holding out in the front group, that means that our Cs will have to catch this absolute front group to win in the category competition, or our Bs, depending on which category out of those two ends up prevailing today. I think we can count our A racers out of the running. No offense to the A race, but the race in the A race will mostly be rider v rider as opposed to category v category, because they don't have a very good shot at closing that gap all the way up to the front today. But here we go. Our front 6 D riders now off of the KOM. They've gone around this little loop here. And our Cs, I have to say, I don't think that they've closed 3 minutes yet. So if they can close 3 minutes by the halfway point, then I think they have a shot. But right now, our Ds looking to be pretty strong out on course. Still moving pretty fast. I think that our Ds might have more of a shot than I originally anticipated. We'll just have to wait and see what happens out on course with our D riders. And I think back to what Julian Fussell said over in the live chat, he might be right. That gap might have been a little big for this week in terms of the D to the C riders. All right, let's see what's happening in the live chat right now. Okay, so Julian Fussell says to help you out, PRZEMEK is Shemek. Okay, that's actually really simple. Thank you for that. So Shemek is the top rider in the B race right now. Looks like he's been pulling on that category, on the front of that category. So Shemek is the rider who we've got to be watching out for over in our Bs, and we'll see what happens with the Bs later on today. So it sounds like Shemek is the top rider in the ZRL for the SDW squad. If he pushes too hard today, he's in trouble from his DS. So it sounds like Julian Fussell is DSing for our SDW squad out on course. All right, so it looks like Julian Fussell is our official DS consultant today because we've got him over in the live chat. So if I have any questions about strategy plans out on course, I can ask him. But in the meantime, over to our Ds, they've just hit this little incline up into the twisties, also called the rollers, here in Watopia. They're going to go under this little rock arch, and then it's a lot of up and down, harder for the heavier riders, but I think it's in the best interest of this front pack to stay together now. I don't think we'll see any last-ditch efforts, riders trying to go off the front here. But over to the live gaps now, this is what we really need to keep an eye on. And it looks like our C riders have not made much headway. That gap's still 5 minutes, 35 seconds, so that's about 30-second increase from where we last saw them. They're closing, but are they closing fast enough? That is the real question out there today. Our B riders have made some headway as well. They're now about 2 minutes and 40 seconds back from the C's. So that gap is going to be tough for them to close. And our A riders still sitting over 2 minutes out from our B riders out on course. So I don't think that gap's coming down anytime soon today. But our B's and C's, I think if the B's can catch the C's and they can work together as one pack for a little while at least, then one of those categories has a chance of winning today. Otherwise, our D's might have a good shot at the win. We see a rider going off the front here, Frommel. He is a Zwift Power registered rider, I believe. This is, let me get you updated on this. This is Michael Frommel. He is leading out our D's right now, and he's got about 1 second to the riders chasing him behind. He's taking advantage of these twisties. Let's look from the front here. We can see the chasers. They are not far back, and it doesn't look like Frommel's making a ton of headway. D66 pushing at the front, 4 watts per kilo compared to Frommel's 2.6, and that's not going to hold. This gap is going to be coming down. D66 maybe trying to bridge here. I think he's just pulling everybody back up to Frommel. It was a good attack from Michael Frommel, not something that I expected there in the twisties, but he's been pulled back here, and now our front 6 D riders are back together. We'll try and jump in with our C, see what's up with them out on course. All right, let's see if we can get in with PTK. See, I don't remember what Patch Harvey's new username was on Zwift, so I'll see if I can turn to somebody else. Maybe we can jump in with Antoine Studner now over in the C's. All right, does not look like he is riding right now. There we go. Here we go. Should just be a minute, and we're switching over to Antoine Studner now. Studner, excuse me. I think I was pronouncing that wrong. He's sitting around 20th place, so it looks like there has been a split in the C field. Here we go. Patrick Harvey in a front group now. He's about 5th place, 8th place out on the road. Let's see if we can get a bit of an overhead view here, see how many riders there are riding in this little group. Let's see. We can go to the overhead here. These riders just coming over the bridge now, and it looks like there are well over 6 of them, which means that our front rider is here. D. Lowe from the Cyclonauts is off the front. That's Derek Lowe. And they're just catching some drop D riders here as they go under the bridge. Patrick Harvey back to the front for the BRT riders. This is going to be your front breakaway in the C race, and I have a feeling that they're going to go all the way out there today. I think that they have a good shot at catching the C's or catching the D's now that they've broken free from the rest of the pack. Must have been a nice little break there on the climb. It doesn't surprise me. I think that the climb was going to be a turning point today for all of our categories, and it'll be interesting to see where our B's are out on course as well, what's happening with them. But for now, over to the Zwift Power Live gaps. We'll see if those have updated. Looks like we're getting another update in 15 seconds, so I'll keep you updated on that. As our rider's just about to pass through our Zwift banner here, keep an eye on this because this is going to be where the riders are finishing, given I believe it's from the other side. But see, it's a pretty flat finish here, so definitely favoring the sprinters, and I have a feeling it will come down to a sprint in most categories. No real great spots to get away out on course today. All right, there we go. We just got our live update in Zwift Power, and it looks like the gap from the C's to the D's still 5 minutes and 17 seconds. I repeat, 5 minutes and 17 seconds. That's still a big gap considering our D's are just now reaching the halfway point on course. They're just about to go through the sprint now. Our A's still a ways back. They're over 2 minutes back from the B's. And our B to C gap, the gap that I think we should really be watching right now, has gone back out a little bit. It looks like that gap is now sitting right over 2 minutes. So, excuse me, it hasn't gone back out. Our B's have actually made a lot of headway on the C's because I forgot that they had a 3-minute gap today, and they're making great progress of that. Already about a third of the way closed, a third of the way into the course. we'll see a pretty close race between our B's and our C's coming down into the finish line here. And there we go, those gaps updating now. It looks like the gap now under 2 minutes from our B's to our C's. That is some exciting news because it means that we're going to see a real race between the B and the C category today. Our D's, we might have let them get too far away. I honestly think that they still have a shot at this one with a 5 minute and 11-second gap. I don't know. The C's not closing very fast. It might be up to our B riders to blow past the C's and make some headway on those D's now. You never know what's going to happen. It looks like our C's are a little discombobulated, and it's showing in the numbers. They're not riding as a clear group right now. Riders all split up, and our 6th rider out on course behind Patrick Harvey, it looks like it's Bevis Fuchsia, does not have a wheel to follow. There we go. He's just coming up to Patrick Harvey. So we'll see if our C riders can get their act together a little here because that gap still coming down. Just came down another second now. That's going to be 1 minute and 51 seconds from our B's to our C's. Excuse me, now under that, 1 minute and 46 for any of you watching the Zwift Power Live data. This is going to be exciting, and I want to see if we can jump back in with the B's now because they're going to be the ones to watch. All right, we've got another Polish rider on the front here, but I'll do my best. It looks like this is Marcin Kowalski. He is riding for the ZTP LCC squad. We're going to try and jump in with him over in our B's. All right. Sorry, I'm just struggling with this name here. All right, it looks like there are actually a lot of Marcin Kowalski's, but so we're gonna have to try and jump back in with our SDW rider out on course, and that would be Shemek, our SDW rider Shemek. So we're gonna try and jump in with him now instead because it doesn't look like I can find Marcin out on course. All right. We're just here we go. Persimmon Jurors from the SDW squad, and we are in with our front D group now. I'll try and get you the updates on the gaps now that we're in with our B's. It looks like the gap from our C riders to our B riders has come down to well under a minute. Looks like it's at now it's back out over a minute. I've just gave you some false information there. Our B rider and C rider gaps have been ping-ponging around just a little bit. But now looking at ETAs, that's something that we haven't looked at a whole lot from our Zwift Power Live data, and it could give us a little bit of an insight into which category is going to win because we've got some pretty clear ETAs here. The B's are expected to finish at 50 minutes and 40 seconds. Our D's are expected to finish at 47:32, so that would put our D's in first. Our B's following in second at 50:40. Our C's would be put in third with 51 minutes and 45 seconds. And our A riders in last with 52 minutes and 5 seconds. So if everything goes according to our Zwift Power estimated time of arrival, we'd have a DBCA podium today, with the A's just off the podium there in fourth place. Looks like our D's are just on a 6% downhill here, negative 6% gradient, and they've caught some drop D's and C riders. They're just coming through the sprint point here. This is about the halfway point on the course. Looks like the Zwift Power Live map is lagging just a little bit, so I'd say our D's are approaching their second pass over the KOM. It'll be on the forward side of the Zwift KOM this time for our D riders, and they're going to be the ones who hit that first. Looking at the gaps now, 4 minutes and 53 seconds from our C's to our D's. I don't know that they're going to be able to close it. They've been closing, but I don't think that they'll bring it down all the way to 0-0 because our D's still have a good lead over halfway through this course. And I'm thinking that maybe what Julian Fussell said in the chat earlier could be correct right now. I think that gap might have been a little bit too much to ask of our C's and D's. Sorry, our C's and B's. And looking at the live gap between C and B riders now, it looks like it's just out to over a minute now. 1 minute and 6 seconds from our C's to our B's. Those groups riding pretty close to each other now, and it looks like they're in sight of a large group of C riders here. Our B riders out on course. I'm wondering if these are our front C's. I see a large group of C riders just ahead on course, and I'm wondering if maybe our Zwift Power live data is not 100%. I'm going to try and jump in with these riders here. It looks like this is the second group out on the road for our C riders. This contains David Swan from the BRT, but if our B's can catch that next group up there on the road, that'll be some nice motivation to continue on towards our leading C's, and it looks like the gap now has come down to under a minute. Once again, sorry, we just got another update there. Now back to over a minute. So it's just gone back and forth between our C's and our B's right now. Let's look in. Our B riders moving a little bit more slowly here. They're kind of in some rollers this section out on course. They've passed through the sprint. Now they went up through the Italian villas, and they're coming back around for the forward pass of the Zwift KOM. I think it's just about time to jump in with our D's right after we watch the B's make this catch. Our estimated time of arrivals on Zwift Power still showing our D's leading, followed by the B's, then the C's, and then the A's. But we'll see if that estimated time of arrival is correct. Here we go. The B's have caught the second group of C riders out on course. Now it's home free up to our leading C's. This could be where the race is decided on the forward Zwift KOM. Time to jump in with our D's out on course. We're going to see if we can catch. It looks like Michael Frommel is a special character in his name, so I'm not sure if I can get him up on the Zwift Companion app, but do my best here. All right. Just trying to find Michael Frommel out on course. He's in the lead group of D riders right now, and they've been riding really well. Once again, their ETA is still ahead of our B riders, who are predicted in second, so they have a good shot out on course of managing to hold their lead. It was a fairly large gap this week, 7 minutes to the C's and a whole 10 minutes from the D's to the B's. So we'll see if that ends up doing some good things for our D's out on course. I think we're going to have to try and jump in with Michael Toglia because I cannot find Michael Frommel out on course. Toglia will be just a little step back from Frommel because I believe he's riding in our second group of D riders. Here we go. We're in with Michael Toglia, and let's move up here. You can see our lead group a whole 2 minutes ahead of Toglia there. So the gap just growing now. We still have 6 riders in this front group, I believe, though, which means that this group is deciding the fate of our D's out on course today. A. Grim Vargas is the rider that we're in with right now. Osal's D66, S. Golding, and Michael Frommel still up here as well. We saw Frommel make a little move earlier on in the twisties, but it was brought back by D66. Be curious to see if we see anybody else going for it in our D race today. And back over to the live gaps now. It looks like our C's have gone back out to over 5 minutes to the D riders, whereas our B's have closed it down to only 38 seconds. 38 seconds from our B's to our C's right now. I think we're going to see a catch there, and we might actually have to jump back in with our C's just to see if we can watch that catch in the making, because our D's have got a pretty good shot at the lead now. It looks like they're just coming up for their forward pass over the KOM. So we're going to try and jump in, see if we can watch that catch real quick, and then it's back to the D's because their finish will be happening any minute after we watch that catch. A lot of exciting stuff happening out there today on course. We're going to try and jump in with Shemek again, and it looks like we just got an update from Julian Fussell in the chat. Okay, the SWB squad, Shemek and Rob Burden, are riding for James Curie. He's a sprint monster going for today's win. So we should be watching out for James Curie in the B race today. Nice to have our updates from Julian Fussell. So thank you, Julian, for all of these. Let's see. We're going to try and jump in with Shemek now. All right, here we go. Shemek Jers out on course. And it might take a minute for us to switch over, but here we go. They are now in the underground tunnels, and we can see Patrick Harvey is just up ahead. That gap now right around 48 seconds. So the gap from our lead Bs to our lead Cs, 47 seconds, and it's coming down fast now, 46. Let's see if our Bs can keep making headway on these. I see our Burden now. That is Rob Burden. So he and Shemek Jers are both going to be working for James Curie in today's sprint, it sounds like, for our SDW squad, according to the SDW DS Julian Fussell over in the live chat. So Shemek now on the front. We'll see what they can do for their sprinter, James Curie, today. But right now, the real race to watch is between the Bs and the Cs for the category competition, because we're not quite to the finish yet. In the meantime, we're going to have to keep an eye on what's happening over in the D race as well, because we don't want to miss their finish. It looks like they're about halfway up the forward KOM now, maybe nearing the top here. So that we want to keep an eye on that as well. But the gap now 39 seconds from our Bs to our Cs. I think we can stick around with enough time to watch this catch being made. Now we can jump up into the group ahead. This is going to be Patrick Harvey here from the Badgers. Bevis Fuchsia up here as well. And these riders are the top 6 C riders out on course. They're trying to hold off Rob Burden, C. Ashley, those Shemek Jers, some of the chasing riders over in the B race. Just 34 seconds behind now. Now down to 33 seconds. The B category is closing fast on our leading Cs. And it looks like our Ds are just coming over the top of the KOM now. They'll come down the forward side of the KOM. They'll come down the reverse side of the KOM. Then they have one more trip through the sprint banner before finishing in downtown Watopia. Rob Burden now on the front for the SDW squad over in the B race. And the gap now 30 seconds from Rob Burden to Patrick Harvey. Our C riders still pushing hard. They've hit this little incline here, and just up above, we can see another group of D riders out on course. It'll be nice for our C riders to see some other riders out on course make a little catch here, but I think it's all over for them. 23 seconds, now 22 seconds from our Bs to our Cs is not very much. That gap is coming down fast, and I think we're going to see the catch maybe even before our Ds crest the top of the forward KOM. Very exciting here. We're having all sorts of categories converging, not to mention the exciting D finish that will surely be coming very soon. Now our Bs, we can see the gap, 22 seconds. It's been holding there for a little while. They got to up the pace just a little bit as our Cs making the catch on this D group. They get a little bit of extra draft there just for a minute. Although, unfortunately, I think that's going to mess up my gap reading a little as well, because now we've got a group in between the Bs and the Cs. Let's see if we can zoom out on the minimap, and there we go. I can see the Bs. They're still on this same island as the Cs, and our Cs are just about to hit that forward KOM. We see it over to the left here. That bridge marks the start of the KOM just about. The Bs still closing quite nicely, and our Ds well over the top of the KOM now. We might have to jump in with them before this catch is made, and I'm hoping that we can see our Bs surge a little here and catch the Cs first, but I think it's just cutting it a little too close. It's going to be time to jump back in with our Ds in just a minute here. Let's see. Moving to the back of this group. There we go. The gap is now 16 seconds. And the fact that they've hit the KOM is not going to help that. We've got a couple riders off the back of this front C group struggling. The gap now about 19 seconds. It looks like our Bs are going to make the catch on this small D group here, which means that we'll have a better view on that gap from the Cs to the Bs. But you can see they're in pretty close proximity here. We just watched our Cs go through this point on the course, and the gap now 16 seconds. We got to get our D riders lined up because they're going to be finishing very shortly as well. All right. The Ds, we're going to be jumping in with Michael Toglia as soon as we see this catch made. All right, here we go. We've got our D rider lined up so that we can get in with that category as soon as possible. And now our Cs are in sight, moving to the front of our B group here. That gap now coming down. We're catching some of the dropped riders from this front C group, even some dropped D riders from a while back as well. Looks like Baragalo is leading it out. He's got a bit of a gap here to the rest of the Bs, but he's pulling them up this hill. Now only 3 seconds from Patrick Harvey to our lead Bs. This is going to be a tight race. The gap now down to 2 seconds. Not going to be a tight race. They've got him pegged now, but let's see. Looks like a Sea Rider trying to go off the front here as our lead Bs are making their way through the middle of this pack. Here they are. They've now caught them onto the wheels of our Sea Riders. Goes Baragalo and SG 1285. Lots of other B Riders following, although it looks like Baragalo has got a decent gap here. He's now moving through this field containing Patrick Harvey. And Bevis Fuchsia and our Ball have both gone off the front of the C race. This is madness right now. Will Baragalo be able to hold his gap to the Bs? Will Ball and Fuchsia be able to hold their gap to the Cs? It's all very exciting, but right now we got to jump in with our D race out on course. Looks like Toglia is just passing over the top of the KOM here. But that's not the rider we need to keep an eye on. It's going to be the riders farther out on course. There we go. I saw D66. Here we go. This is your lead group with S Golding, and they are just about to come through the sprint point here, I believe. Not too far off now. Because our Ds are right now the category to watch, although the gap, there we go. Our Bs have officially made the catch on Zwift Power. We can see that now, and it looks like they're ping-ponging back and forth here a little bit, so we'll wait for a more clear update. But the gap only about 3 minutes and 39 seconds from the CB group to the D group. This is going to be a tight race. I think our Ds can make it if they really push hard. But the other thing that we've forgotten about is that the 6th rider out on course is the one that really counts for the Ds, and that would be O'Sals, which means that the gap is slightly less than it's showing on Zwift Power, because Zwift Power will be showing the gap to Frommel. So that gap really 10 seconds less. And now our Bs have officially passed out the Cs over on Zwift Power. Subtracting 10 seconds from that gap, it looks like the gap is now 3 minutes and 27 seconds from our leading B group to our 6th D rider out on the road right now. So 6th B to 6th D now under 3 minutes and 45 seconds. I think the fact that Sols and Guim Vargas have lost the benefit of the draft over in the D race could be fatal to them. Their speed is going to slow quite a bit here, and our Bs still have the full benefit of the draft. Not to mention, they've still got a descent on their hands. Our D's well off that descent, now actually climbing a little bit here. It's really going to be a race against the clock for our D's. Can they pull it in fast enough? The finish not too far away now. We're 42 minutes in. Their ETA showing around 49 minutes, which means we've only got about 7 more minutes of racing over here in the D category. And our other categories will be finishing up shortly after that. Right now, this is the most exciting category to watch because it's where all the action is happening. They're going to be finishing first. And right now, the sprint point is looming not too far ahead. They'll descend off of this little rise here and over the bridge into the sprint point. From there, they go through the twisties and finish. Downhill finish down into downtown Watopia. It's going to be a tight race. I think for the first time all race, it looks like our Bs may have a shot. There we go. We're seeing some gaps over on the leaderboard here. It's hard to tell if these riders are the lead B group or a trailing B group. Maybe just dropped right. I think K Jung Ki. Gonna have to check in with this rider here. All right. It looks like Ki is not. Yeah, sorry. This is a 37th place here. And another category I do want to check in with real quick is our A race because we haven't seen much of them out on course. It looks like LLCA just coming over the top of the... This looks like the forward KOM now. So he has just completed his pass of the forward KOM. And LLCA now has got about a 1 minute 39 second gap. 120 to D low. So those are our leaders up there. Just under 2 minutes behind our C race now. Although our 6th rider is the one that counts, and they're about 34 seconds back. So it's going to be tough for our A's to make the catch on our C's, but it is still possible. Anything's possible out there on course today, but back up with the D's before they're finished right now. All right, here we go, jumping in with Michael Toglia. It looks like he's been caught by our lead B group. Here we go. Moving up through the B's, A. Baragalo still off the front along with Ball and Bevis Fuchsia. these riders have got a nice gap to the rest of the B's and C's. I think we could be looking at a winner from this group possibly if our SDW riders, who we know have a plan to chase down any breaks, they're working for their sprinter today. So if they can get that chase initiated, these riders may be brought back. Although the C's doesn't really matter where they finish in the B group. So if they can stay away from their B chase, from their C chase companions, then that would be a nice accomplishment for them. And they could be looking at a podium spot out there today. Here we go. We're jumping in with some D's out on course. Looks like they're not too far from the sprint point. They're sitting outside of our second group on the road. But here we go. This is the group containing Egwim Voss and Osals. This group also contains your sixth rider out on the road. Not sure if it's going to be Gwim Vargas or Sals yet, but one of these riders will be your sixth rider, assuming that no other groups make the catch. They're now through the sprint point, and it might be worth it to jump in with our lead Ds just for a minute here. Looks like S1 DSD is off the front, and they're still coming through the twisties here, so their finish will be any minute now, actually. They will survive, make it away from both our chasing B, C, and A groups all the way to the finish. However, the sixth rider is not located in this leading D group, so technically, it doesn't mean anything for our category v category competition in the end. It's all going to come down to whether Gwim Vargas and Sals are caught by our Bs, who are our second group out on the road right now. Although right now our Cs are being shown ahead of the Bs, and I suspect that's because of that little group, that little breakaway group containing two Bs and two Cs. So all very exciting right now out on course. And the gap from that little breakaway to the main BC group is about 11 seconds now. So they're making some headway. If they can stay away, that would be huge kudos to them, because I know that we've got a big chase coming from the SDW squad over in the main group with Shemek and Rob. Two riders chasing back there. All right, here we go. S1 DSD is going to be the rider that comes into the finish line first for our Ds, I believe, because our next rider, S Golding, 2 seconds back. It's closable, but it doesn't look like it's coming down now out to 3 seconds. This rider was able to get into the front breakaway right from the start. That was our leading group of 6. That later broke up on the second pass over the KOM. That was the forward KOM. And now our sixth rider located a ways back with Gwim Vargas and Sals, but S from the 1 DSD squad has managed to survive. We just saw the 200 meters to go sign over on the side of the road, and it looks like Lingelbach is going to be able to take first today in the Ds. Golding will bring up the rear in second, or not bring up the rear, but take second here. And now back with our other D riders out in course. This is your group containing the sixth rider right now. And it looks like they're coming down into the finish as well. Our D's still a ways back. Sorry, our B's and C's still a ways back. That's about a 2-minute, 20-second gap now. It's coming down fast, actually, 2 minutes 18, but it's not closable in the time that we have. The finish line will be in sight, in fact, as soon as we come around this right-hand bend here. It's going to be, I believe, your second win for the D's in this series. They might have won the first race. No, actually, it went CCB, and now our Ds will have their first win. That's going to give every category a win except for our A category. But great riding to them nevertheless. They just haven't had the numbers quite yet. The banner will be in sight in just a minute now. We're coming around that little right-hand turn. 300 meters to go, as that sign just told us. And it looks like Gwim Vargas is leading it out. Saul's sitting on the wheel. This could be an interesting sprint for 6th place between Gwim Vargas and Sauls. Here we go. Sauls coming into the lead, and it looks like Gwim Vargas not putting up much of a chase. Even Sauls only pushing around 7 watts per kilos here. Doesn't look like they're pushing super hard. All right, here we go. Back with Bevis Fuchsia, and it looks like Sauls took that one ahead of Gwim Vargas. So now the race is going to be between these B and C riders off the front and the chasing B group behind. I think that they've got a pretty good shot right now, because look, our chasing Bs are 19 seconds back. See Ashley at the front. See Alat Flynn from the BRT. Our breakaway riders have done it. Baragalo made this little break on that climb, Looks like Bevis Fuchsia from the Sea Riders, when he got caught, he was able to go with them, Baragalo and Shaw. I'm not actually sure when Shaw managed to make it into this group. Now Bevis Fuchsia going off the front. Fuchsia is going to be the first Sea Rider across the line, and it's going to be a sprint between Baragalo and Shaw for our first B Rider. It looks like the gap only going out now to our chasing Bs. If they were going to close this, they should have made the move earlier. Looks like Baragalo leading out in a sprint. Bevis Fuchsia also sprinting hard. Now it's going to be Shaw on the front. Bevis Fuchsia already has this first place in the C race locked up because he doesn't have any competition here. Here we go. Looks like it's going to be H. Shaw for the win. Bevis Fuchsia first for the C's and Baragalo second in our B race. Here we go. Back with Jay Curie from the SDW Wasps. This was the sprinter we were told to watch out for, and he is pushing hard for that third place final spot on the podium right now. This is coming into contention, and it's right down to the line between Curie from the SDW Wasps, and I believe that was El Bjors, the Swedish rider there. They were very close on the line, although I think that Jay Curie from the SDW Wasps had it. We'll go to Julian Fussell in the live chat, see what he thinks on that one. And in the meantime, we're going to try and jump in with our A race now because their finish is the next one up. We're going to try and jump in with Nuno Cerqueira right now. Cerqueira. Alright, just waiting to switch over into our A category. Here we go. We're up with Nuno Cerqueira. And it looks like they're riding maybe in second place here. Yeah, LLCA, I believe this is your first placed A rider out on the road. And Cerqueira following just about 3 seconds behind, but that gap has come down 5 seconds when we first jumped in with these riders, and Cerqueira pushing he's pushing a little higher than LLCA just a minute ago. So this could come down to a sprint finish between our front two A riders, although LCA with a healthy lead right now. 3 seconds coming into the finish here. And we'll get confirmed Zwift Power results on all our categories in just a minute, which means we don't have to go to the photo for that B race finish because Zwift Power will do that for us. So I'll let you know which categories managed to win in just a minute. I think it's pretty safe to say that our D category were the winners today, but we can get all the official confirmed results from Zwift Power in a minute. In fact, I think that I have to check with our race organizer on this one, but the fact that the front 6 D riders, only one of them was registered on Zwift Power. Here we go, LLCA taking the win in the A race, by the way. All right, so what I was saying was only one of our front 6 D riders was registered on Zwift Power, and I think that I have to talk to the race director about this, and I know you'll see in the final results what happens, but I think that if we eliminate all the non-Zwift Power registered riders, today's win is going to go to the Bs, assuming that our front 5 D riders are eliminated because they were not registered on Zwift Power. So it'll be curious to see what happens there. I think that this race might go to the Bs, and I'm just awaiting live results now. Michael Frommel, as I said, he was the only D Zwift Power registered rider from the front group. So it looks like the win might go to the Bs today because of that. Unfortunate for our Ds. But, opt in for Zwift Power. Quick shout out for anybody not opted into Zwift Power right now. If you want to do any serious racing, remember to opt in for Zwift Power. It's pretty much the best tip that anybody will ever give you about Zwift racing, because that's where all the official results are. And if you want to compete in a series, you need to be registered on Zwift Power. All right, so Michael Frommel now looks like he has officially finished on Zwift Power. We'll await the confirmed results for some of the other categories. Just looking over in the live chat right now. Geminiso, it looks like they were rooting for the C's and specifically the Badgers within the C race. Looks like James Curie didn't race the Quatch Quest today. He ought to be strong and be finished. And yes, he was. It sounds like he won last week but had a dropout on the line. TZRP footage has it captured. So if you want to check out what happened there, you can go back and look at last week's live coverage because that's unfortunate. Geminisa said this is too close to call. Yeah, it definitely was. He also won Mad Monday this week. That's your wheel to follow. And yes, Julian Fussell was correct. James Curie did really well. And looks like Julian Fussell said, think James was fourth. On my screen, I'd say it looks like he was third. But I don't know. We saw the two. I know we had two B riders go through ahead of our lead B pack. So that means that for sure the best he could have done was third, as he was in the leading pack of Bs. It was very close on the line between him and one other rider, so we'll just have to wait to see who got to claim that third place spot. And so good to know that. Here we go. We've got some confirmed results right now. And I can tell you right now, our Bs are going to be the winners. We've got 6 of them before our first 6 Ds or Cs. That's just largely due to the fact that none of our Ds were registered on Zwift Power. So it looks like we've got 6 Bs coming in first. And I'll give you category finish breakdowns in a minute. But for now, I'm going to look and see what we've got happening here. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we just need one more A racer to get to the line. And then we can call it. It looks like it would go Bs and then Cs. I can confirm that our Bs won today, our Cs are in second, and now it's a race between the Ds and the As for third in terms of Zwift Power finishes. So, right now, it looks like we just need one more A rider to be confirmed across the line, and our As have the third place. But if we can get 2 more D riders across the line before our As finish, then the Ds have it. So we'll await the Zwift Power live results on that, and we can have the official finish in terms of that in just a minute. But now, down to the category finishes. It looks like for our Cs, I'll start with the Ds, actually. Michael Frommel, clear winner there. Huge gap back to Brooks Stills, 3 minutes and 12 seconds. So Frommel taking the win by 12 seconds, followed by Brooks Stills, Michael Toglia, Derek Lowe, and then Marco Zanderman in fourth, it looks like, for our Ds. Over in the Cs, Bevis Fuchsia won in that race, followed by Patrick Harvey in second, Duccio Viere in third, JL in fourth, and then Derek Lowe in fifth. So it looks like Alexei Zarov is going to be our fifth place rider in the our sixth place rider. Got to get my words straight there, in the C category. And then finally in the Bs, which is our only other official confirmed category here, Howard Shaw is the winner. He managed to get in that breakaway. And in fact, the other rider in the breakaway with Howard Shaw, our other B rider, is not registered on Zwift Power. That's going to mean that Howard Shaw, the winner, and James Curie, second according to Zwift Power. So, Julian Fussell, if you're still listening, James Curie managed second there because we had a Zwift Power DQ. Then Lucas Bjohes, the rider that we came down to, it was James Curie versus Lucas Bjohes on the line, and it looks like Bjohes was just behind him, so Bjohes will be in third today. Lucas Letgers in fourth, Phil Smith in fifth, Samuel G in sixth. So that's your top 6 B riders out there today. So congrats to Howard Shaw. He managed to get in the breakaway there, and then all of our other following 5 finishers out there today. All right, here we go. I can now confirm it went Bs won today. Then our Cs got their 6th riders across the line before any other categories finished. Then in third place, our As managed to do it. They got their 6th A rider across the line before the 6th D rider, so that will put Ds in 4th place today. Once again, B, C, A, D. Congrats to all categories out on course today. And we'll see you. Well, this is going to be our final live coverage for the BRT Thunder and Lightning series. But don't forget to show up next season, Season 2. Bring your teammates. It's going to be super fun. BRT Thunder and Lightning Season 2. I think I may even try and do a couple of those races myself because we're not going to have the live coverage next season. Good luck to everybody in that. And, well, we'll see you next time on the Zwift Race Place. Stay posted. We'll have more live race coverage and commentary coming out soon. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Zwift Race Place for more live race coverage, community coaching tips videos, and general Zwift knowledge. Thanks to everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.